Hey, it's the Clockwork Mage and this broadcast spell is live. Welcome back, everyone. So today we are going to be talking about my homebrew world. And this is all thanks in part to a comment that I got on one of my older videos asking about my world. And I will post that comment right here for everyone to see. Thank you. I hope everyone enjoys this. This is not all I'm going to be answering, though. I will be going more in depth on why I believe my world is different from other people's worlds and things that I've implemented that I haven't seen anywhere else. Now, if you guys have anything that you love about your homebrew worlds or that you don't hear about here and are surprised you don't see it, I would love to see it in the comments below, and I'd love to talk about it and discuss it, and maybe even make a video about it if you guys inspire me enough to. So, to start us off, thank you, Edward. And I will read Edward's comment now. What is your world like as far as technology, culture, races, magic level, etc.? I think that's very basic question to ask. I think it does let you know more about the world and get a little more invested into it. But I think that there is more that I can answer, and hopefully this will be satisfying for you, Edward, and anyone else watching. So, to start us off, as far as technology, I stick with medieval. I think it's very good, and it's what I've been running for the last 13 years in my homebrew world. Everyone loves it, and it kind of gives room to expand upon things, as well as people having a way to go up in technology without worrying that it already exists somewhere else or something like that, which it might, but that's half the fun of it too, right? I have done other technology levels. Don't feel like medieval is the only one that you can do. I've ran D&D games at modern technology and even at space level technology. It's a lot of fun, and honestly, everything in technology level is valid as long as you can make it work. That's probably the hard part if you go anything before medieval, but if you can make that work, I mean, kudos to you. That's probably tougher than even going into space, in my opinion. Continuing forward, culture. So that's kind of a tough question to answer, and I said that in my reply to Edward as well. Culture is very different place to place, and I'm going to show you guys. I mean, look at that. Look how much there is as a world. That's a big world to have. Each of those are a continent, let alone the cities in between each of them. You have to imagine the culture is different even city to city, let alone continent to continent. It all depends on who's running it, what races are running the city or the area or anything like that. They could have different policies due to world events that have happened or anything like that. Everything affects culture in my world. I've had culture be completely changed in years' time, of course, not just at the drop of a hat, but I've had cultures of cities change due to an adventuring party coming through and changing it for the better or for the worse, whether it be more policies against thieving, such as harsher policies, or anything like that. It just really does change with the time and the placement of things in the world and how the masses perceive things, because that's kind of what culture is. It also derives from past experiences and history and beliefs that, whether right or wrong, forge the future. That's half the fun. And of course, I do have cultures based off of real life cultures, and this helps me a lot, especially when I'm DMing. Being able to keep these cultures in mind helped me imagine the thought process of the characters that I'm playing for my players. All of the NPCs are going to have mostly their own personality, but cultures will determine more or less their base idea of beliefs and other things like that, which then helps you guide your NPCs to feel more living and real. And I could make a whole video on culture and creating real life, living, breathing NPCs, but that's probably going to have to be for another video. And if you guys want to see that, tell me about that as well. Now, moving on, races. I have all of the races in D&D 3.5 that were ever printed, and I even have some custom races that I've had some players ask me about and make themselves. For example, I've had a player that was really interested in making a bioluminescent kind of like werewolf-esque, more anthropomorphic, but they never change, so no lycanthropy or anything like that, but it was really cool. He made a whole island, he had cultures behind the main tribes that lived on this island that were all bioluminescent, and how even the wildlife on this had to grow differently to survive. It was outstanding. This player really thought it out, and honestly, I love that he let me have this piece of his island world culture that he made and let me put it in my world, because it is honestly outstanding. And even that could be a video in its own, just exploring that small little island that player made. And honestly, you're amazing for making that. If you're watching this, I don't know if you are, but you know who I'm talking about. And that's another thing. I'm try to be open with my players with creative ideas and other things like that, because honestly, my players have blown me away more than I think I have. My players come up with such creative ideas, and I love to implement them into my world, and it always adds more to it. And that's why I love my world that I've been building for the past 13 years, because it's not just my creation, it's all of my players' creation and mine. I just happen to be another person who writes the story in the book. Continuing on, magic level. I keep most of it to high magic, but I do have some exceptions in the world. Some continents don't believe in having magic around. They believe that there is magic, but they slaughter mages anytime they are caught. They have extremely powerful anti-magic items, basically metal that stops them and other things like that. And this is all due to a catastrophe that happened way beforehand, and it's a whole thing. I'm not going to get too into it, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun having the players on their toes if they're mages inside this world. Even little bits of magic can get you executed, for lack of a better term. And it's a lot of fun to kind of put them in that situation, and they just want to get out immediately, which understandable. There are other reasons that they should be leaving that area, but they usually find that out while they're there as well. Now that I've covered all of that, I do want to get into some things that I'm really proud of in my world, things that I've kind of made different from other DMs that I've seen. So the first thing that I really like about my world is that gods do not walk among men in my world. I know that's extremely common in D&D lore and other things like that, but in my world, the gods actually have rules and regulations that they have to follow, or else be smited by the rest of the pantheon. It's a lot of fun, because then the way they deal with not being able to walk the earth and do things as they see fit, they choose a devoted champion of their religion. And that champion then goes around and fulfills the word of their god, so on and so forth. They act as the god's hand on the earth, and the god empowers them with their divine deity power. That's been a lot of fun, just having a champion walk up instead of a god, because champions are mortal, even though they have godly buffs, extremely strong buffs, and normally they're really high-leveled and devout characters. They're still mortal. They can still die. And I think that's a lot more interesting than just having a god there. I think that takes away from the suspense of, can we fight this guy? Can we stop him? Well, I know some DMs have found their ways around it, but this is mine, and I've really enjoyed it, and I think my players have too. And it's even given my players something to strive for if they are playing a religious character. I have had one player strive to be a champion of Thor. And that's another thing that I'm going to get into. I run multiple pantheons in the same world. The way I run the pantheons is the pantheons don't exactly have full control over every single continent. Each pantheon is normally stuck to certain continents that believe in them. The more belief that continent has in them, the stronger their champion is on that continent. And if your champion has no power on a continent because the whole continent doesn't believe you as a god or doesn't worship you, then having a champion there means nothing, because the champion won't be able to get anything done on a godly level. That's how I've kind of been able to get around certain things and make for more interesting stories. But I will say I do have one exception to this godly rule, and it is because I have Greece in my world. I love Greek mythology, and I always have, and I just took it and plopped it right into my world and kind of made its own thing out of it. I have certain rules and stipulations for Greece to make things keep working the way they do in mythology. And it's a lot of fun. I do allow the gods, the Greek gods, to walk the earth because they don't follow the same rules that the other pantheons do, because they are the elder gods, if you will. They have special privileges. They've been walking the earth before the other gods were even born in my world. That's kind of a little secret that I have, and if any of my players are watching this, you didn't hear that. And allowing the gods to walk the earth in Greece makes more sense because they are more prone to human emotions and other things like that. And while they are gods that are walking the earth, I think this just fits better for Greek mythology in general. So I couldn't really find a way to get around it without feeling like I've completely abandoned Greek mythology altogether or made a very watered down version of it. So I decided to keep it, and honestly, it's worked very well, in my opinion. Continuing on, I also want to say that I know some DMs are really opposed to having characters that aren't the players that have player levels, but they're all over my world because I've had players in my world for the past 13 years. Some characters end up retiring and living a great life. Their characters still walk the earth as well. Sometimes they turn into quest givers. Sometimes those character players become gods themselves. And other times they're just there to cause havoc because they were causing havoc before they stopped playing the game. I've turned some of them into heroes, I've turned some of them into villains, and of course this is all with the consent of the players that I still run their characters, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to see a character come back because you know that they're living well and they're doing well where you left them off. Another thing that I feel like I do different, if you haven't figured it out already, is letting players continuously mold this world in their way that they're going to do it. So any quests that they finish or quests that they don't finish affect the world that they're living in. They know their characters are living in this world, and they know that there are consequences to not doing something or to doing something. That's half the fun of playing the same world for the past 13 years. It's as if you get to see this world develop in the image that you want it to be. The more good you do, the more good there is in the world. The more evil you do, the more evil corrupts everything it touches. It's just the circle of life in the world of D&D. And with D&D having such non-gray areas, because some things are literally evil, it makes for more fun later on when these things perpetuate through the world. And while one party may be an evil party causing havoc everywhere, there's another party that has to clean all of this up because they're the good party having to deal with the stuff that the evil party left behind. I've had this happen where it turned into a wild goose chase, and each party was each other's antithesis, where they ended up slowly finding each other and fighting each other, and it was a blast. It was two different sets of people altogether, and we brought them together for one big D&D session, and it was a lot of fun, and there was no hard feelings in the end. Mind you, I knew everyone was going to be mostly okay with the outcome because, I'll be honest, the evil party knew they were going to die, and that's why they were wreaking as much havoc as they could, because they went into this knowing they were going to die, but they wanted to leave a footprint and make sure that everyone knew who they were, and they wanted to see everyone cower. Even though they are not there anymore, the scar that they left stayed. And that's what they loved, even though their characters didn't last. Those are mostly the main things that I say set my world apart from other people's worlds that I've seen, at least. And I enjoy it a lot. It makes the world feel like it's there. Every NPC, you know you might see them again. You know you might visit the same town again. You might build your own civilization. I've had players start their own town, their own guild. They build it from the ground up, literally paying for every single scrap of wood and every single gold piece going to investing into the town that they made. And they loved it. And now it's there forever in my world. And it's actually a mainstay. It brings in a lot of adventurers to the continent, and it helps perpetuate the good that that party wanted at the time. I hope you guys have enjoyed this talk about my world. I tried to keep everything broad and not get too deep into one thing or another. But if you guys want me to go into more detail about certain parts of my world or anything like that, leave a comment. I'd love to talk more and have a reason to talk more about my world. I think it's a lot of fun. Obviously, I've been playing it for the past 13 years. I might be a little biased, but there's that. I could also have players come in and join me and talk with me as well. I think that could be fun too. Honestly, I just want to hear what you guys want to listen to. I'm all ears. I hope you guys had a great time listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to join my Discord. There's a link down in the description below. And I will see you all next time.